All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. It has already been a wild one with all of the earnings today, and we have a ton of things to react to. Even Microsoft, they're coming out with Azure guidance and talking about spending right here, right now. It's actually tweaking out. I even made a play on AMD, but we have to talk about this bank merger that also went down today. So if you didn't see it, we had it super early today, but Banc of California and PacWest announced a merger on the day that both of them were reporting. So it's actually kind of wild here. We have a lot to discuss. We even have a lot more data tomorrow. And even though everyone's reacted to the earnings, again, Microsoft, they're responding now. Google actually did good, and this is lifting us up, but don't forget, tomorrow is Jerome Powell. So, Chad, we have a ton of things to talk about. I even have a play with 1,000% potential. It reminds me of Upstart. We already made it, and I think you can follow along with it, and hopefully if it does go down, you should get it cheaper than I do. We're going to find out, but we have that, a couple more, and I think one more earnings play. So, Chad, drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed, and hopefully we see you on stream during earnings. We will have all of the earnings live, so hopefully we see you there. But Chad, let's talk about the earnings. So even then, right now, it's getting a little wacky. I just made a play on AMD after hours. If you got the stream alert, you should have saw that there. But it's interesting because Microsoft is coming out with their guidance, and they just said, we're expecting to spend more money, but we're also expecting good cloud. And then they just gave Azure numbers, which are the same. So here's what I mean by that. Essentially, Microsoft, they came out today. They beat on revenue. I think a little bit on EPS, but the Azure, it came in line, and that is a number that is 50% lower than last year. So it's not like Microsoft did bad. They kind of just performed like a Tesla or Netflix last week, pretty much better than expected on the top line, but then on the key metrics, kind of nothing special. And now that guidance there, that's literally what just changed everything. So I went with the chips because they said they're going to spend more money, and then NVIDIA and all those guys, they reacted right away. So that was Microsoft. Google had a blowout. It was absolutely amazing. However, the one thing people are talking about is the fact that their spending and CapEx did not go up, which had some people doubting this whole narrative of all these big companies rushing to buy AI chips. But other than that, they beat on everything. Search was not a problem. And then even YouTube, they beat by 200 million. My only problem with this is that that's a low number, but now it is stable. And all of the slower ad trends from last year or the last couple of quarters, things are looking decent. And I mean, people just are not as worried about Google, and that was a solid print. So you had that. You had pretty lackluster, boring earnings out of Snapchat. TDOC, that's the play we're going to talk about. They just did better than expected, but still producing a loss. I haven't looked into Visa, but they're already down. I think that could even change with all the other credit card companies that we saw. And then pre-market, 3M actually did good. So there was all of that, but now I've been telling you about Jerome Powell tomorrow, and although I want to talk about that today, we've already discussed it. And watch yesterday's video, because tomorrow it is all about this rate cut, rate hike dilemma and what happens with the Fed futures. Every single day I have made you one of these videos, you have gotten some type of move in the Fed futures, and even now, coming into today, it has nothing to do with January and December. That has all stayed the same where it's been at the last couple of days, but this is where it gets better. Now, September, this is the one where it was going to be pretty much a 50-50. It closed a little bit. It was at 50-50 throughout the day, but now the rest of the rate hikes moving forward, they're kind of getting a debate. So at the beginning of the week, we watched the rate cuts by the end of the year in January disappear, and now by today, we're watching a little volatility on the closer Fed future. So tomorrow, nobody should be surprised if Powell raised rates. Everyone's going to look for a clue. He probably shouldn't give it to us, and now he is probably going to get asked this question about this bank merger. So let's talk about it. And now let us get into the plays. So I made a play on this today, but you could see here on the stream alert, this news came out. We responded literally 14:38, like right when it came out. You even had a stream alert then. That means like we were pretty quick on this one. But the thing about it, when it first came out, I was very hesitant, and I still am, because it was an announcement that PACW was going to be getting sold. And now, if you've been following the banking crisis over the last couple of months here, anybody selling assets or looking to sell their company, it is usually turned out that that company would end up with a receivership or a failure, like SVB, FRC, Signature Bank, and even Silvergate. So that's just 4 off the top of my head. But that's to give you an idea of, like, initially people were worried about it, and even now, just like the terms of the deal, it's kind of interesting. But the main summary is that PacWest, a bank with more assets than BANC, Banc of California, they are merging together, and pretty much all of the shares of PacW, one share of PacW will turn into like 0.68 of a share of BANC. Now, the CEO commented on it. He said there's no real risk towards it, and then they also talked about what they're doing, because yeah, PacW is merging. It's like a sale, but then with this new merged company, they're also selling assets to raise capital and get rid of some of the other stuff that they have. So in a weird way, it is literally a mix of the whole entire criteria that we've seen. Like I told you, anybody who's trying to raise capital, sell assets, it's always turned out miserable. They just did all of it. They just merged, sold assets for sale, and combined. And the market was tweaking out a little bit after hours, but now everybody seems to be loving it, with both shares up about 30%. So I guess that's how it played out the last time with the banking crisis. It just took longer, but we're going to follow this up. I think it's going to be a big deal. I think Powell is going to discuss it, but if anything, here's what I want to tell you. Everybody was saying, well, it seemed like last time before Powell spoke that we had a banking situation, SVB, and even afterwards, the FRCs, it all correlates with Powell. So I guess I'm giving you tinfoil on the watch list, but the only way I'm looking at this, it seems like every quarter point up from here, every quarter rate hike, we might watch a bank, because that seems to be what's happening. There may be a threshold, and maybe Wall was really on the block. So it's a good event for everybody, and this is better than the government taking over, because now Wall doesn't disappear at a low value. PacW or Bank of W. I keep saying Wall. I meant PacW. Excuse me. I don't know why I kept saying Wall. Maybe they're next. But no, I'm talking PacW. But Bank C now, by them buying it, it sustains the value. They're going to absorb it. And like I put even on the stream alert, anybody who's bought in any of these banks have done good, and now it does seem like that's playing out. So I'd watch to hear what Powell has to say about this. Other than that, it's going to be about the Meta earnings tomorrow. Powell and what he says, I'm not expecting too much. Just raise the rates, not much guidance. Leave it data dependent. Maybe try to caution towards what the SEP says, but if anything, I think he's going to combat it. And really now, we are all looking towards August, September, and the end of the year following this, assuming Meta Apple doesn't scare anything, because again, this is all looking decent for now, until we'll see if Microsoft ends up recovering. But that's the first play. I'm in the bank shares, gonna watch that again. I think it's gonna be a big set of news. And now for the second play, this is that 1000% option that I was talking about. However, I didn't want to say this on stream, and I said it just out of abundance of caution. I don't want people to be stupid with any of these plays. And why I say it has 1000% potential, because it reminds me of Upstart. So the play is a TDOC January 50 call, and really the theme I want to show you is the entire January option chain. There's just one little thing you got to notice, but why I think this has potential, it reminds me of Upstart, and that's why I also think you could watch how this play plays out, because remember, Upstart, we hit that at the beginning of the year. If we even held it, we made 3,000%. We would have made even more if we held it, but I just took my profits early. But it reminds me of that play in the sense that we went for a similar option with similar time, out of the money, and it had a cheap price. So that's why I really liked it. But even Upstart, after the first earnings, I remember those plays went negative. You had an opportunity to double dip on them. That's why I'm bringing this up right now. So I think this play is going to develop slow, but this is the only reason why I bought it. Not only did TDOC have earnings, and I think it could move, and I like that, did I think this earnings would be the one that makes it go like Upstart? Not really, but then again, Upstart's earnings was just better than expected at the right moment that helped facilitate that move. But overall, the big reason was the option chain. I was looking for the play. People were talking about this. I knew this thing could move, but if you go through every single available expiration, you will notice that the furthest you could go on the chain is about $35, $40. So this is a good and bad thing, but what I noticed is that when we got to January, the option chain started to get a little deeper, and this is why I decided to speculate on the earnings, because according to Black-Scholes model, maybe you watched the movie The Big Short, these longer dated options, especially further out the money, more time, more farther out the money, they are even harder to price. And in the case of TDOC, these provided the cheap options. If you wanted to play any TDOC play for less than a couple of pennies, that didn't exist anywhere on the option chain except for these. So yeah, granted, they're out the money. It would need a big move, but think about some of the other big plays you've seen throughout the year. Now, I'm talking Meta, Redfin, but I'm not trying to hype this play up in that sense. It will take a lot, and really, you need the stock to move about 100% for this to become value. So I think it's going to take time, but the real thing, it was the option chain and kind of this opportunity where if you go through some names that have moved a lot over the years and look at their recent option chains, they don't offer a lot, but there might be a strike price here and there that offers some lower risk or cheaper premium. So that's play number 2. Keep an eye out for that one. And then finally, play number 3 now. I don't know how I feel about this one. I really don't know how I feel about it, but Meta. So I have the puts. I closed out of the Google and my Microsoft plays for a loss. I think I lost like $200 between both of them. So not bad. I got to get back some profit, but we had a little bit of profits. The pre-earnings play did not hold up. I had nothing to even hold. So I closed out of all of them, took my loss, went home. But now Meta, I'm still in this play. Those options held up a little bit, but now after Google and Microsoft, but especially Google, I don't see any slowdown with ads. Snapchat didn't do too bad, but for the most part, Meta doesn't look like they have any headwinds they could gain from Google, and now they're going to be launching all of this stuff. Now, this is why I say I don't know, because Google is good sympathy, but I don't know if I want to buy the calls per se. So like I've been telling you, just take a look at a couple of standard deviations, see what's priced in, and thankfully, I guess they have came down over the last couple of days, but they still have the premium, and that's just word to Meta having such a big run-up. So I don't know which direction to go on, but now after this hype, I think there might be a good play to flip the IV and then get in and out, and not literally both sides for the earnings tomorrow, but maybe they just kill the puts. We'll find out, but I think there's going to be a lot of hype on this tomorrow, especially if people could carry any of that Google optimism, and then obviously we'll see where Microsoft ends up with all of that. But Chad, those are the main plays. As far as everything else, I don't think I did anything. I bought the BANC. I did those AMDs after hours. I did average down on another 100 shares of ENZ, so this was the play from earlier. They went up. I averaged down to like 144. I thought they'd do a little bit better, but like I said, just be careful. This is either going to be a hype play or they burn a lot of cash and it might not do nothing, but still holding it. We'll see what happens. Microsoft is still dumping on all of this, so now we have our first earnings going down. But Chad, it's going to be exciting tomorrow. Get ready for Powell, 2 p.m. Eastern. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. And you know why you have the armor? Because it's simple, man. If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can't get you, baby. So, Chad, stay in the game. I hope you're loving the earnings. It's only getting crazier from here. We are finishing up July, and we have a long way to go. 10% long-term, finger to the sky. I will see you in the morning. Goodbye. I don't know how my finger got here. I was trying to do it, and then I have the... I still made it. Oh, I wasn't supposed to make... All right, I love Horn. Cribs, Uncle. What? I'm just, bro, I thought... I'm going to leave Horn.